Joey Firstborns.
Together, Afton was desperate and crazed than ever, returning to defunct pizzerias to steal the possessed metal still living inside their walls. What he didn't account for, though, were the ghosts, forcing him to pay for the sins of his past. When last we left him, William was spring-locked, bleeding to death behind a secret wall. Gone, but certainly not forgotten, as we're about to see in today's video. Today, we're finishing up Chapter 2 of the story, wrapping up the Afton era. Over the next 6 pages, we switch our focus to the other main character of the franchise, Mike, a young boy made to fall out of a stupid childhood decision with tragic consequences. A young man whose life is best described as collateral damage, caught in the blast radius of William's whirlwind of destruction. Now, before we begin, let me just rip off the band-aid now. We won't be finishing the timeline today. I know. I'm sorry, I wanted to, but covering FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach wound up taking me an additional 9 pages of script. And I've already made you wait long enough for this part, so I just had to make the executive call to break this one up into 2. Don't worry, that part is already written, it is already recorded, it is just in the process of being edited. It is a hefty episode. So mark it on your calendar, that one's actually going live on March 25th. It's also coming complete with a live talk back where we go back over everything from the past couple episodes, as well as having ourselves some very special guests. So overall, that one should be a lot of fun. Fair warning though, the conclusions we've reached that solve Security Breach, they are controversial. I feel good about it. Like, I think that we've locked in a lot of answers
here we go.
But there raise a lot of discussion. Let's just say that you're either going to love that episode or hate it. I don't really think there's going to be much in between on that one. Anyway, without any further ado, let's cover a chunk of the timeline that's a lot less controversial. Let's meet Mike. William still wasn't back. Weird. Michael knew his father sometimes traveled for work, disappearing for days on end, but usually there was some sort of notice, a phone call, posted, something. It's not like Michael and his father were close, far from it, but as a household of 2 suffering men coping with years of tragedy and loss, there was at least some element of communication between the 2 of them. They were united by a name and a shared pain. This time, though, things felt different. William had left nothing. His absence was longer. There were no check-ins, no updates, just silence. Something had happened. If there was one thing Michael knew about his father, it was that he had contingencies, safety checks, backup plans. His father was a careful and guarded man. He held his cards close to his chest. As such, William had prepared him in the event that something like this ever happened. Normally, his father kept his home office locked, but in the event of an unexpected, prolonged absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and look behind an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office. Never fully understood how William was able to spend so many hours of his days locked up in here. There was just nothing to do. Most of this place was empty. He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box. But what he actually found there was completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
The shelf swung open and revealed a giant industrial elevator, one that led straight down into an underground bunker. But that was impossible. Hidden inside his childhood home was a secret entrance to an enormous underground science lair? It didn't make any sense. Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet, here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor plan of the house that he'd grown up in, lost his brother in, been tortured in. Michael thought that he'd known his father. A prideful, sad, angry man with petty, everyday problems, but clearly he'd been living with a stranger this entire time. His father had secrets. Suddenly, the days of William being locked inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here, though? Was this Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals? The Circus Baby restaurant always did seem to be a deeply personal project for father. A failure of his that cut unusually deep, especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks. After that day, father really did seem to change, to lose himself even more in his work. Clearly, the entrance he had found was some sort of secret back way into the facility, one that required crawling through vents to navigate. His father had been working here, but in secret. Why? And that's when he found her. She entered the facility, Circus Baby, his father's pride and joy. Except something was different about her. She wasn't like the others. The way she talked, the stories she told. This wasn't just a robot. She was alive. And not only was she alive, she also felt familiar.
There is something bad inside of me. I'm broken. I can't be fixed. Will you help me?
Was this his sister? William's baby girl? But how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a child in Freddy's stomach? Was his father collecting and experimenting experimenting on kids? Were all the rumors that he'd heard throughout his past actually true?
What
That
happened to the
animatronics
seashells?
came to life at night? That there
Shit.
were murders done in all the pizzerias? That his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it? Suddenly, Michael's mind flashed back to his persistent nightmares throughout his childhood. Had he been experimented on too? Tears stung in his eyes as anger, fear, and confusion filled his body. His father's secrets were pouring out. William wasn't just a lame, overworked father. He was a monster toying with life itself. Suddenly, everything clicked. He frantically looked around the room, blinking human heads on poles staring back at him. Green eyes, his sister. Blue eyes, his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring expectantly. These be human. William was working down here trying to make believable humans, literally rebuilding the family that they had both lost. The small little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility suddenly took on a whole new context.
This is the same person.
Were those meant to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was William building clones of his sister? They seemed to know him, after all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He always did have a bit of a resemblance to his father. Michael's mind reeled as the reality of his world crumbled. No, he had to get him out of there. If this really was his sister, heck, if any of these things were spirits, whatever reptiles they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the voice of Circus Baby, he marched through the now empty halls of the Funtime Auditorium. He would
Ooh, you
lead them,
brushed.
he would protect them, and
You
finally
need to be
he would be able
brushed.
to forgive himself for the killing of his brother so many years.
You are in the scooping room now. The scooper only hurts for a moment.
Scooper? That violent extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about heat rendering the magical silver metal inside useless. In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become increasingly sophisticated, with a mechanized arm that could infuse new bodies with the soul. William could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies. But William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was about to learn.
But if we looked like you, then we could hide. If we looked like you, then we would have somewhere to go.
Michael was going to be the hero to help these animatronics, all right. He was going to help the haunted tubes and wires of these animatronics escape, just not the way that he anticipated. His sister had lied to him. Another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body as he heard his bones ripping through the flesh.
Lunch or dinner differently at Tim's with their new Supreme Stack. Pound high with sliced seasoned steak and double smoked bacon. It's a sandwich that's built to satisfy. Tim's differently with the new Supreme Stack.
Experience Purology sulfate-free hair care. Purology, made different.
Ooh, that didn't feel good.
Oh, hello, Mr. Vet. You want me to take Luna over?
What if dogs actually liked what's good for them? Pedigree pouch, made with real leader poultry, as healthy as it is tasty.
Buy Thunderbolts, the new Avengers, now only on digital. It's one of the best Marvel movies of all time. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
You guys hear that?
Marvel Studios, Thunderbolts, buy it now only on digital.
But I'm not.
For the next several months, Michael's life was not his own. He was forced to comply with the tangle of wires and spirits that lived inside of him. His body felt like an overfilled balloon, begging to burst as day by day, week by week, his flesh began to sag and discolor. He was a walking, talking, rotting corpse, alive, but wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet, a walking shell. While he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The entity in his innards would eventually leave, but at that point, damage had been done. His decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple eye. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live. That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die. His anger also refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core. His father had killed and captured dozens. His experiments had killed his sister and then tortured him throughout all his childhood. He was actively trying to build human replicants. He didn't know where his father was, but Michael knew that he was out there somewhere.
I've been living in shadows. There's only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael had to correct for the sins of his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could you do when your skin was permanently purple? Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at the old defunct pizzeria locations. That way, no one ever had to see him or smell him during his shift. And all these old shuttered locations did need guards. Teenage vandals and squatters were always looking to get inside these abandoned buildings, and yet no one ever really wanted to work an overnight graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options. Enter one by one, he would take on the job of security guard, changing his name each time to no one was able to follow his paper trail. Once inside, he could tamper with the animatronics and figure out what writing about his experiences in the security logbook. While there, he would listen to the old tapes where upper management awkwardly welcomed the new recruits to their summer jobs, even though he was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from the outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around him. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls around him. Except now, there was something else there. He was no longer alone. Another angrier presence was also in the suit, as if two spirits were forced to share the same body. And Golden Freddy would attack him now. It was aggressive. Its vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who wore a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked his way through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts. And each time at the end of this week's shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all. So burning away whatever spirit-laden animatronics that still existed inside seemed like a winning strategy. All this revisiting of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood. The guilt around killing his brother. His dreams were oddly mixed with the shrill phone calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that that day would come sooner than he expected. 2023, an advertisement came across Mike's TV. Fazbear Frights, a new horror attraction inspired by the awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years ago. It made Mike sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others, off his own family. This wasn't a joke or entertainment. Regardless, he had to be a part of it. If this team was combing through his family's history, they might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there would be maybe this could be the final chapter in his family's marathon of courage. He applied for the job and was immediately given the keys. Years of doing this had taught him that security guards rarely received thorough security checks. They also liked how creepy Mike looked. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job. What little they knew.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks, there was nothing. But just as Mike considered giving up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally be done? Sure enough, there he was. William inside his iconic golden Bonnie Springlock suit. The mouth was green and there they were. Small family of broken men finally reunited. It's been a long time now. Mike had always struggled with the phantoms of his past haunting him, but now all the animatronics he'd encountered over the past months, the pizzeria suddenly sprang to life. Their burned faces haunting him as he tried to keep track of his father on the cameras. It would seem that William's presence had put the spirits on high alert. Ultimately, they were harmless, more annoying than anything else. But there was one that felt different from the others. One that was more than just a mere security. If you looked at the cameras at just the right moment, you could see it floating there through the halls. You could even see its reflection in the water cooled on the ground. It would seem like he wasn't the only one there on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place, finally setting them to rest. Hopefully this means a happier day for all of us, Mike thought to himself. And in that moment, he felt the air around his release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his brother was a part of them. He rigged the wiring inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames. It is finished. Except, it was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will, Afton remained. He had survived. and Mike would need to find a new way of finishing off his father. Luckily, the solution would present itself later that year. Not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his father's wake.
We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee. Restaurant ownership and management. Something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success. You are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand has been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry, but he'd largely pulled out of the franchise around the time of his father's disappearance. Something was up. Surely this had to be some kind of a trick, right? Mike, doing what he did best, applied for a franchise and immediately got the job. There was just one thing out of the ordinary. Paragraph 4.
If you are playing this tape, that means that not only have you been checking outside at the end of every shift, as you were instructed to do, but also that you have found something that meets the criteria of your special obligations under paragraph 4.
No employment contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside the restaurant. Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good. Mike knew this
Poor
was
goddamn bastard.
was meant to be a prison.
Whew.
A locked box meant to trap them all in so they could finally end the madness. It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot Spaghetti that had once violated his body, and his sister, now hopelessly devoted to serve the man that had once gotten her killed. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if the remnant needed to be washed away, he needed to be a part of that.
This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing, not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace and perhaps more waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
And with that, it was over. The Afton legacy died with all of them trapped inside of a literal box. As the flames danced around Mike, for the first time in decades, was happy. But William, although the darkest pit of hell was open and waiting for him, think for someone who wouldn't allow him to move on. Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past. Pizzeria, son's room, the underground bunker. It was as if his brain's neurons were all firing at once, overloaded. Mixed with his biggest fears, left failure. What was this place? How did he get here? He called out into the silence. Then they, without warning, animatronics, both new and old, bite, ripped him limb from limb. The pain was immense. Make it stop. Make it stop. William, for the first time, longed for death, an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet again. It was as if the world had been reset. There was a brief moment of quiet, and then the onslaught began again. Dozens of faces from his past all focused on him. A waking nightmare that he couldn't escape from. More pain, more ripping. It was his own personal hell, but why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw...
The union of fruity, sweet, gummy, and tangy crunchy nerds. Nerds Gummy Clusters, so you can unleash your senses. Now available in berry.
Don't miss the final week of Canadian Tire's Great Canadian Super Sale. Save up to 40% on kitchen essentials, camping, patio sets, and more until July 10th.
Pureology's Color Fanatic Golden Spread. Made just beans.
I knew, like, if we wanted to be the company that we wanted to be, like, there needs to be some scalability with it. We could go from the different modules and add additional features that helped us scale to where it is right now. Went from, like, 0 to now over, like, $20 million in revenue every year.
The new Elastoplast second skin protection. 100% waterproof. Protects like a second skin.
And he saw them, a group of characters he never thought he'd see again. Those janky, stolen characters that started everything. The mediocre melodies. It had all started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
That voice. He knew that voice, but from where? The one he shouldn't have killed. William thought that. He'd done a lot of awful things, but there was always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with. The one that he had broken beyond repair for no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden bear that his partner used to wear. Cassidy. They were back. Now they were trying to punish him, to make him suffer like he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to move on. But while Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, they actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should have destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William breathing, paving the way for his escape. William's will was so strong, his soul so powerful that he managed to put a part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-locked suit. And there his consciousness lay, inside a single circuit board, waiting for someone to find him and set him free. A person that no one would suspect. Okay, so a bit of a shorter chunk, but an important one as we shift perspectives to Mike and tell his side of the story. And with FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach having so much to explain, I didn't want to rush through things by trying to cram it all in here. Don't worry, I know you've all been patient. The final video is happening on March 25th. That is locked, it is getting ready to go. Trust me, I want this thing to be over and done with as much as you. I am not just stretching it out for the views. But before we wrap up for the day, I did want to talk about the big Orville elephant in the room, Mike's quest for revenge. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's a good reason for that. I don't know them. There is no good way for me to make them fit in. Here's what I do know. We know with a high amount of certainty that Michael Afton is the character that we play as up until Ultimate Custom Night. Mike Schmidt and Fritz Smith, the security guards for FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 respectively, get fired for, quote, tampering with the animatronics and odor. So weird connection between the two of them, right? But now, look at the phantom animatronics that are haunting us in FNAF 3. They use models from both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, meaning whoever is sitting in that security guard chair, Fazbear Fright, they have to have seen both locations and their animatronics. And that's not all. Their designs are burned. It's a weird detail in the game, and it's something that the character encyclopedia repeatedly calls attention to. The burned texture for these phantom animatronics. Why is that so unusual, though? Fazbear Frights is the first time in the franchise that we hear about anything burning down. From that point on in the story, it's like the characters turn pyro and are suddenly setting fires left and right. But for the first 3 games, nothing ever catches fire. The animatronics are just moved or repurposed in some way. So when did they burn? And why would our security guards see them as being burned? Someone has to have been going location to location, setting these places on fire, purging the sins of the past. We know we're definitely playing as Mike and Sister Location in FNAF 6 based on the in-game dialogue. And in FNAF 4, there's an Easter egg where we can hear the phone call from Night 1 of FNAF 1, meaning that whoever's in that bedroom has heard the recording as a security guard. We also know that Mike has seen the nightmare animatronics based on his drawings in the security logbook. So overall, there is solid evidence that connects all of FNAFs 1 through 6. You'll also notice how the character encyclopedia doesn't have a page for Mike Afton. This thing has a page for Chocolate Bunny Bonnie, but not Michael. Some tells me they don't want us to confirm how many games he's been in, because that would confirm too much of the theory. In short, this gives us an incredibly compelling and complete narrative. Mike as our protagonist, and William, his father, as our antagonist. Mike accidentally kills his brother in Fredbear's mouth, which begins our story and sets William down his pathway of destruction. Mike is then haunted by the guilt of his past and is looking to make things right across the rest of the games. In Sister Location, he learns what his father's been up to and realizes what he has to do to correct it. After failing to finish the job in FNAF 3, he ultimately helps Henry end it all in FNAF 6. It is great. It is a clean narrative. There is just one problem: timing. Mike's quest can't really start until he's been down to Sister Location, seen Baby, and gotten himself scooped. That's when he finds out about Afton's secret life. It's also when he's gonna start to smell, because, you know, he's a walking, talking, rotting corpse. And we know that he's not going down into the bunker until the Funtime animatronics have been
what do you think?
closed and
I think
Afton is out of the picture. That
What do I do with the rest of the body?
1993, after William is sealed
I think I'm
behind
gonna
the wall.
stuff it and then put a bunch of eyes on it.
Afton has already dismantled the original animatronics as we see in the
Then I can call it Peekaboo Elmo. I see you, Elmo, or whatever pun someone came up with that was really, really good and I don't remember.
That is way earlier than I think it can be. To be fair, Fritz Smith's pink slip on Night 7 doesn't have a date. It's a bit weird to say that the first few nights are in 1987 and then employee number 3 is hired on years after the restaurant closes. Anyway, I just wanted to call that out because I don't have a solid answer for it, and I'd love to see your comments down below. And with that, my friends, this chapter comes to a close. We'll see you on March 25th for the grand finale finale as we cover the final 3 games of the franchise and the controversial answers we think solves what those games were trying to tell us. Until then, my fast heads, remember, even though Afton kinda succeeded in being brought back to life, gotta admit, it's still looking a little bit on the dry, dehydrated side. Just those 3 fighters and being dead for a decade will tend to do that to you. Fortunately, thanks to today's sponsor, Air Up, I think we can help them out with the hydration thing, not the whole burning alive thing. You guys know that I hate drinking plain water. It's just boring. And that then led me to my current crippling Diet Coke addiction. However, Air Up has found a way to harness the power of science to get me to drink more water, which not only do I love in principle, but I can truly say has changed my drinking habits forever. They use these special scent pods that fit directly onto the top of the bottle, and almost as if by magic, it makes the water taste like basically anything you want. How? If you guys have ever watched Food Theory, you've probably heard me say that smell is more important than taste, and that's exactly what Air Up's taken advantage of here. These pods are full of flavorful smells like watermelon, peach, wild berry. That was my personal favorite. And by having the pods in front of your nose as you're drinking, it makes your brain think that that's what you're tasting. But in fact, you're just drinking good old H2O. No additives, no preservatives, no sugars, no syrups, no aspartame, no nothing. I love my Air Up. But naturally, when I tell other people about it, they're skeptical. Right? It's a weird concept. So I got members of Team Fears to try it for themselves, and they were also blown away by the results. Lee, Amy, and Tom, 3 of our creative directors, they walk around with their Air Up bottles constantly. Lee loves it so much that he even bought one for his brother's wedding present. Tom said that the orange vanilla swirl flavor reminded him of ice creams that he used to eat as a kid, which sounds way more exciting than just plain old water. And the great thing is, if you aren't like me and you just want some good old-fashioned water every once in a while, you just drop the flavor pod down away from your nose, and suddenly you're back to drinking out of a regular water bottle. The team and I love Air Up. Seriously, there's so many of these bottles around the office now. And I wouldn't keep saying yes to their sponsorships if I didn't genuinely believe in the quality of the product. So head on down to the description and click the link to purchase your bottle now.
Okay,
Plus,
come here,
if you purchase
bunny.
any starter set and use the code FREEFAVE5, you'll receive 1 free Favorite 5 variety pack. That's going to get you 5 one-punch packs of orange vanilla, raspberry lemon, peach, watermelon, and again, my personal favorite, wild berry. That way you get a good sample of a lot of different flavors, and you can find the one that's perfect for your tasting enjoyment. Sadly, there's no burning metal or remnant flavors for Afton to enjoy, but I'm sure the others will do the trick. Strikes me as a raspberry lemon kind of guy. So once again, head on down to the description, get yourself a starter
Raspberry
pack,
lemon
and
is
use the
pretty
code
fire.
FREEFAVE5. That is FREEFAV number 5, no spaces, to get your free Favorite 5 variety pack. Experience how crazy awesome a water bottle can really be. And as always, my friends, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
The Cashmere logo.
That's some fucking giant horns. Holy shit. Are they both about the same? I did pretty good with putting the holes in.
Stands for something more. Soft, strong, and Canadian all over.
Cheez-It and MLS presents the Cheez-It Wager.
Goal, 10 Cheez-It crackers. Offside, 20 Cheez-It crackers.
Anything for your game, anything for your snacks. We get it.
At the Home Depot, we make the doing easier. So no matter what projects you're tackling this season, you can take them all from do to done. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
The aromatic tuna in olive oil. The pink color. The delicate aroma. The firm yet tender texture. Great taste needs little. Riomatic, the real taste of Italy.
What if I told you that everything we thought we knew about FNAF was a lie? That Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy were never possessed? That the bite of 87 never happened? Heck, that the bite of 83 never happened? What if I told you that William Afton didn't die because some spirits harassed him in a back room, but because he got careless and wept? What if I told you that Golden Freddy never existed? You would all think that I was crazy, right? That after 60 episodes covering the series that I'd finally lost it, or gotten so desperate that I needed you to throw it all away and start again for content. But I assure you, I'm still here, totally sane, or yes, as sane as I've ever been, and totally suspecting that some, maybe even all of the statements that I just made are 100% true. So open your ears and listen to what I have to say, because once I'm done, none of us will look at this franchise the same way again.
Okay, I need to put you somewhere so you can
Internet.
stabilize.
Welcome to Game Theory, where am I the only one that hears that weird humming sound? I think it's coming from the subscribe button. Can you help me smash it? Oh, thank goodness, that was driving me insane. Huh, what's this small disc that fell out? Yeah, probably not important. Today is a big day as far as FNAF theory goes. Usually I'm here picking apart details from the newest book, or trying to solve one very specific part of the franchise's history, or reminding you that robot kids do in fact exist, and Gregory is one of them. But this episode has a wider scope. It's bigger. It touches literally everything released in
I'm
the
just gonna
franchise thus
sew
far.
up
I don't know if
this
I agree with today's theory or not.
pocket.
I don't even
I
know
had to
if
take the
like
electronics
today's
out because
theory
they
or
didn't
not.
work.
Scratch that, I do know. Kinda hate it, and what it means for the franchise. But regardless of whether you agree or disagree, love it or hate it, I am asking you to keep an open mind about it, because this one feels important. And the implications of it, if true, would certainly result in the biggest shakeup for the series since the conclusion of FNAF 6. Today, I'm asking you to take everything that you thought you knew about FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4. Possessed animatronics, the crying child, the missing children's incident, the entire existence of Golden Freddy. Take all of that and burn it to the ground. Maybe not burn it, we've seen that does not work. Take it all and put it through a paper shredder or something, will ya? Because none of it matters. None of it is all wrong. Or maybe it isn't. But before I explain why, I have to tell you that brand new holiday theory wear is available right now. And while I might not be the hugest fan of the implications of today's theory, I am the hugest fan of the merch that we've got lined up for you. Starting off with the newest addition to my rainbow of jackets, turquoise. You guys know at this point that I love me some bright, colorful jackets, right? You may also know that a couple years ago I partnered with Creator Inc. to make my own ideal jacket. Vegan leather, zips on the pockets to keep them secure, a special interior pocket that's a little bit larger to fit a tablet or a Nintendo Switch, and overall a stylish, well-fitting, brightly colored jacket. And I gotta say, we hit it out of the park. It is indeed my favorite jacket. The only thing that I don't like about it is that it's only one color, and I want to be able to wear any color I want at any time I want. So this time we remade the jacket in a beautiful, vibrant turquoise. It's a color that I always wanted in jacket form but could never find in the store. So you know what? We just went out and chose it ourselves. So add this one to your collection, my friends. Gotta catch 'em all. Matte Pack color jackets. Yep, that didn't fit into cadence at all. Or, you know, maybe you prefer your jackets with a bit more lore. Well, if you need a jacket that screams, I love puzzle solving, get ready. We've got the next installment of our puzzle jacket line as well. The Quest Jacket Volume 3. It's not just a jacket, it's an experience. Basically, this thing is an escape room that you can wear. Complete the puzzle that's built into the various parts of this jacket and you win yourself a special prize. The Quest Jacket is something
There we go, finally!
We are the only people crazy enough to make a wearable item that is also a series of puzzles and lore. In fact, we reached out to a couple of factories and they outright told us, no, we will not make this jacket for you because we are asking them to print things in places where you don't normally print. It is just very complicated to make these jackets. There's a reason we're the only people to do them, and I think you're gonna have a blast with this one because there's even more challenging puzzles to solve and a much more fashionable design, making this one more wearable than Quest number 1. So, are you ready to uncover the mystery and save the galaxy? Good luck, Space Ace. Believe it or not, though, we also have things that aren't jackets, like our 4-channel candle set. Ever wonder what the channels smell like? Probably haven't because, well, why would you? But dear viewer, smell-o-vision is finally a thing with these candles themed around each of our 4 channels. This carefully constructed signature scent that we can help encapsulate each of the channels perfectly. Screen Fiend, which smells like red plum and cinnamon, witty banter with hints of jasmine and mint, mid-episode regrets, very familiar with that one, but it smells of beautiful sandalwood, and my personal favorite, fresh lore, giving you that clean aroma of linen. These candles are made of soy, which means that they burn clean, and they also last for up to 40 hours. So if your gamer cave is starting to smell a bit too much like Doritos and Mountain Dew, these candles may just be perfect get. Or if you want another way to set some mood lighting, check out our Game Theory Plasma Orb. We've harnessed the power of lightning and mixed in some game theory to turn it into our signature green. When you touch it, you are gonna feel like a super-powered mad scientist. And this is a big boy. Lots of the online plasma orbs tend to be small, but nope, we went with the jumbo size here, so you are harnessing a lot of lightning on your desk. Anyway, these are just a few of the items that we got going on. There's an awesome blanket, lounge pants, a t-shirt, hoodie. There's even a FNAF NASCAR jacket and a lava lamp. I did that thing where I said yes to too many merch ideas, but I gotta be honest with you, I love them all so much. Oh, and also there's some film theory merch in there too. Kinda cool, I guess. But all of it is waiting for you down in the description below, and you better do it quick before I decide to retcon it all out of existence. Speaking of retconning, back in 2019, we got the release of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, otherwise known as FNAF VR. A game that, to this day, ranks as my third favorite from the franchise. On one hand, it was looking forward to the next phase of the series by introducing a new villain, Glitch Trap. But it also had its feet firmly planted in the past, a culmination of everything that had come before in a very literal way, by collecting the first 3 games and turning them into VR experiences. It really felt like an inflection point for the series, a transition from the old story of a serial killer in a haunted pizzeria to the new stories it had yet to tell about the killer living on through technology. But buried in the game were some lines that made everyone stop and go, huh? Right at the top, we got this moment.
We know that Fazbear Entertainment has developed something of a bad reputation, and while it's true that some stories associated with our name were loosely based on actual events, the majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
With the lunatic shown on screen being, of course, a picture of Scott Cawthon himself. It felt like good meme fodder, a funny meta joke that also poked fun at Fazbear Entertainment papering over their bloody history. But then the game chose to double down. In one of the game's hidden lore tapes, we learned more about this lunatic spreading lies about the Fazbear restaurants.
They lied to all of us. They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer. But that's not true at all. Fazbear Entertainment hired the game developer. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. It's an elaborate cover-up.
It was weird. It seemed like FNAF VR was actively throwing into question everything we thought we knew about the franchise's lore. At the time, I went on the record to say this: if FNAF VR's tapes are to be believed, pretty much everything we know could all be thrown out as complete fabrications. The long story short here is that FNAF VR, in making Scott part of the Fazbear cover-up, is the franchise's way of rebooting the story. It's explicitly telling us that everything we've known largely where the community left it. It was a bit of a weird call for the series to disregard everything that had come before, but honestly, it would have been fine. Here's the old original story arc with the first 6 games, and here's the new one moving forward. 2 separate story arcs told within the same universe. Fine. Until Security Breach came out. Suddenly, Springtrap was a key player again, and we were exploring the burned remains of the FNAF 6 location. And the idea of the first 6 games being the crazed ramblings of a hired lunatic were largely forgotten as we were thrust yet again back into the story of the Aftons. Business as usual, only this time, there was Music Man! So that was pretty much the status quo for the past year. But then, in late September, the unthinkable happened. We got another book. I know, I said the B word. I'm sorry, but stick with me this one. You see, this one delivers on the hope that we've had for the books from the very beginning, that they would take small moments from the games and expand upon them to bring more clarity. Care to guess what moment from the games they chose to expand upon? The story of a rogue indie developer hired by Fazbear Entertainment to create a series of games covering up the company's shady past. And if there was any lingering doubt as to how the story fit into the games, the title was none other than Help Wanted. I'm about to summarize what exactly happens in the story, but the TLDR of it is exactly what we predicted back in 2019, that everything you thought you knew about the franchise is dead, just not exactly in the way that we thought, and it suddenly changes everything about how we should be approaching this franchise moving forward. In the story, we follow a character
Okay, that's enough eyeballs.
Needs another one. Working on a quote fetch quest-based game featuring cartoony chipmunks. Now, what could that be a reference to, Scott? Just like we hear about in FNAF VR, Steve is contacted by Fazbear Entertainment to create a series of games in order to help rebrand the company. At first, he turns down the offer. Not the company to take no for an answer, Fazbear then sets up an elaborate plot where they catfish Steve into a date with the woman of his dreams. During the date, he passes out, only to wake up and find that suddenly he's married to the woman and suffering from severe memory loss. This happens a few more times, waking up to discover that he now has children, or that the house he lives in is being foreclosed. Suddenly, in desperate need of money, he contacts Fazbear Entertainment and starts making games for him. 4 games, to be specific. All the while, a constant ringing is happening in his ears.
I spy Elmo.
He becomes more sleep-deprived and paranoid, which then feeds into his games. At night, he's haunted by night terrors, horrific monsters that keep popping out of the walls, which only pushes him to work harder. And throughout it all, the ringing continues to build, rotting his brain. Eventually, Steve discovers what's going on. The high-pitched sound that he keeps hearing has been creating illusions used to gaslight him. His house, just a series of blank rooms. The night terrors, amusement park jump scares coming out of the walls. His beautiful family, robots with plastic robotic faces and wheels. Their physical description actually sounds a lot like the staff bots. Steve is then given a choice of going back to the miserable real world or returning to the happiness that he felt inside the illusion. He chooses the illusion, giving his robot wife a hug, who then stabs him to death. Oh, also there's a DJ on the radio called DJ Dan, the Music Man. It is a super sad story. It's also in no way a tale from the Pizzaplex, considering the places it mentioned once. But more than anything else, it's a story that confirms some of our greatest theories about the franchise. First and foremost, illusion discs are now officially a thing in games. If you don't know what illusion discs are, then good for you. You clearly avoided reading the novel. However, not so lucky. Basically, these things use high-pitched noises to trick the human mind into creating intensely real illusions of things that aren't really there. A robot
I'll go another 10 minutes, and then I'll call it a night.
Rhea is more decorated than it actually is. Characters turn practically invisible on camera. These are all ways that they've been used in books, but up until this point, we've never had a reason to believe that they were in the game universe. The only time that I've suspected that they might be a thing in the games is this scene from Sister Location, when we remove a random flashing disc from Funtime Freddy's chest. It was just speculation at the time, but now, going back, listen to that scene.
The chest cavity should now be open. Remove the power module from the chest cavity. Great work.
You hear it? The buzzing? That humming is only present in scenes where we're directly interacting with an animatronic in close proximity. Just saying, there might have been more evidence to suggest that these things were actually in the games earlier than we thought, but hindsight's 2020. With this new story, we know it's valid technology, and that has huge implications for things that we see throughout Security Breach, like when we hear high-pitched ringing and have distorted vision anytime Vanny runs past us. Why Glamrock Freddy apparently can't see Vanny until he gets Roxy's eyes. It's all much more likely now because she's using illusion discs. It may also play into the mystery of who Patient 46 is. In Retro CD number 15, we hear this clip.
I have this still shot the text pulled from the security footage that recorded you in the Pizzaplex. That's you, isn't it? I know this image is distorted, but I think it looks like you. You're talking to someone. Or something. They almost look like rabbit ears.
One of the consistent features of the illusion discs is that they distort or blur any images that appear on camera. We see this all throughout the fourth closet, so the fact that the still image and distortion are directly being called out here in the CDs indicate that Patient 46 may also be hiding behind an illusion disc. Who knows, if my guess was right and Gregory is meant to be Patient 46, that could be why he's appearing all blurry here in the camera shots from the DLC poster. Admittedly, that opens up some can of worms and contradictions that would merit their own discussion. Like, why would he be clearing all these other pictures? I'm just tossing it out as something for us to chew on. Much more importantly, though, the Help Wanted story confirms that FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4 are canonically video games within Freddy's fictional universe. Were created by a hired gun. A hired gun who, in the story, is confirmed to not be familiar with the events that happened at Freddy's. Quote from the story, "It took a few seconds for the name Fazbear to ring a bell, but then Steve remembered the kids' pizza places that once had been wildly popular, but had suffered a downfall after a variety of criminal allegations. There had been talk of murders, though Steve didn't remember how many. There was weirder stuff too, stories about paranormal events and that kind of nonsense. Steve doesn't actually know the stories and events that took place. He doesn't remember how many kids died. He doesn't believe in paranormal activity. He is an unreliable narrator, which therefore puts everything in those first 4 games into question. He knew rumors of paranormal activity, so he created possessed animatronics. He knew about murders, so he put in minigames depicting kids being murdered. As for the facts though, he cannot be trusted. And the story tries to make it crystal clear that FNAF 4 was largely of his own creation, born out of the torture that Fazbear was subjecting him to. As his hallucinations get more nightmarish, Steve starts seeing monsters literally appear out of walls. One of them is described as follows, quote, "It was the head of something. It was small but bulbous and vain, its large eyes almond-shaped with cat-like pupils. It lunged forward from the hole in the wall and parted its jaws to reveal a mouthful of sharp-looking teeth. Its pointed tongue darted out like a snake's when it sniffed the air." This moment isn't just to show us Steve's torture, it's to show us the influence that it has on the games that he's making. Look at the description. Does it remind you of anything? A character with cat-like eyes, a long pointed tongue, sharp teeth, who likes to pop out unexpectedly? It's Nightmare Foxy from FNAF 4. Look at this picture from the teasers leading up into the game, especially the long pointed tongue. Who else pops out from the closet, from under the bed, from behind a TV in that game? Foxy. The book is spelling out for us why that game is so different, why it's no longer a game about Fazbear Pizzeria. The torture became so much that the story had shifted from being a Fazbear story to being a Steve story. 4 games, 1 story. It's the clue that Scott gave us a long time ago during a live stream after the release of FNAF 4. At first, I suspected the line was all about dream theory, that all of it was happening in the nightmares of a child. And I think that one was right. Then it shifted to the 4 games being about one family, the Aftons, as their kids grappled with the sins of their father. And I think that was also right. But now it's changed once again. It's now 4 games about one new story, Steve's story. The story of a game designer that was being gaslit by an evil robotics company. You know, I gotta hand it to Scott. It's actually impressive how many times he's been able to make that single phrase describe the same set of 4 games. It also means that Scott gets to have his cake and eat it too. He gets to make those first 4 games the equivalent of dream theory without it being a dream. Oh, was the puppet referred to as a he in FNAF 2? Yeah, Steve didn't know. Were there 5 victims? 10? 15 in that first set of pizzerias? Don't know. Steve's just making his best guess. But most importantly of all, it means that anything that doesn't physically appear in or after Sister Location and beyond is suddenly cast into doubt. And when you think about it, that includes some major parts of the lore. For instance, we know that Michael Afton is in fact a security guard for Fazbear Entertainment at some point thanks to the security logbook. Plus, with Sister Location in FNAF 6, we know that he ends up getting scooped and dying in a fire. Sister Location also proves the existence of Elizabeth Afton and how she got scooped by Baby. But the 3rd Afton kid, Crying Child, he's never been mentioned in any other game before. I made theories suggesting that he's the other spirit communicating with Cassidy in the survival logbook, but you know, that's just speculation because I assume that he existed. In FNAF 6's Midnight Motorist, there's reason to believe that he's the one who broke out of the house, considering that Mike in the chair says he's had a hard night. Again, that is pretty weak evidence. Honestly, the closest we get to having physical evidence of his existence is in Security Breach's post-it room, where there's a dinner scene made up of 5 staff bots that appear to be simulating the Afton family, and one of those 5 is missing its head, which we've assumed represents the Crying Child getting chopped. But all of that evidence only stands because the Crying Child was thought to exist thanks to the first 4 games. Maybe that's why we've never actually gotten a name for it, because he was never meant to exist in the first place. So Scott purposely hid the name in order to allow the 5th Afton child's identity to remain anonymous. Ready for a big plot twist when it turns out that he has another child, maybe a daughter, maybe called Nessa. It's speculative as all heck, I'm just throwing it out there as a consideration. Henry and Charlie are definitely in this universe. We see Charlie's death and possession of the puppet thanks to the minigames in FNAF 6, so that's all confirmed. But the missing children's incident where 5 kids were murdered at the FNAF 1 location? Unclear. It's likely that it happened, considering that in FNAF 6's Lore Keeper ending, we see 5
Might have to shrink these down.
Hill, the 5 missing children's incident victims plus Charlie, the 6 victims of William Afton. It's the same thing with Princess Quest. To move forward in the Princess Quest minigame, you have to light 6 gravestones. It seems like those 5 murders happened, but then what about the extra 5 dead bodies that we see appearing throughout the FNAF 2 pizzeria? What about hearing that the pizzeria is getting closed down in the tapes? Even less clear. FNAF VR's main ending proves that William Afton is still the main killer in this universe, and that he definitely stuffed kids into the animatronics. However, whether those kids go on to possess the animatronics is up for debate. Without the first 4 games being officially canon, we don't really have any evidence for their possession. But perhaps the biggest ripple effect of them all, this new understanding of the canonicity heavily suggests that Golden Freddy may never have existed. Right, my favorite clickbait yellow boy may not actually be a thing in this franchise at all. Consider this, Golden Freddy, while seemingly this super important piece of the lore to the franchise, hasn't shown up in a major way in any recent titles. He's only ever shown up in titles with questionable canon. FNAF World, which is definitely not canon. Custom Night, which is Afton's personal hell, and FNAF AR, which isn't really canon. And if you think it is, then both Shamrock Freddy and Chocolate Bonnie are canon. And I refuse to live in a world where that could possibly be true. But in the main games, nothing. In Sister Location, his name is used in a Custom Night challenge. In FNAF 6, completely absent. And in Security Breach, sure, there's a golden Glamrock Freddy that you can collect, but there's a golden toy of every character that you can collect. In fact, Security Breach is outright trying to tell us that Golden Freddy has never been a thing. Of the dozens of collectibles that you can find throughout the game, plushies, figurines, keychains, sweaters, actually seemed important. The Fredbear's Family Diner, and an even older one from Fredbear's Singin' Show. The Singin' Show is I don't know, man, it makes it look like the next game is going to be a crossover with Bendy and the Ape Machine. But the Fredbear's Family Diner ones are the ones that I want to focus on now. Look at these things. One of them has the golden Bonnie with a purple bow tie, just like you'd expect. But the other two show us a brown bear with a black hat and a black bow tie. And you see, that is a huge detail. Up until this point, we've been under the impression that there are only two mascots at Fredbear's Family Diner, Golden Bonnie and Golden Freddy. In FNAF 3, we see a Golden Bonnie and Golden Freddy performing together on stage. Similarly, in FNAF 4, we see Golden Bonnie and Golden Freddy again. It was always those two together with other characters like Foxy and Chica not showing up until later. So why then in Security Breach would they show us regular Freddy as the one on the Fredbear posters, unless he is Fredbear? It's everything that we've been talking about today. Our evidence for Golden Freddy is all founded upon the original 4 FNAF titles, games made by a guy whose brain was slowly turning to mush. But when you actually stop and look for the physical evidence of who Fredbear was in the games that are still considered to be canon, all we get is a brown bear. Golden Freddy was never real. He never existed. I know, it seems wild, but it actually helps answer a lot of questions that we've had about Golden Freddy throughout this franchise. First off, his wildly inconsistent appearance. In both FNAF 1 and 2, he appears gold with a black hat and bow tie. But in the FNAF 2 minigame showing Charlie being killed outside Fredbear's Family Diner, the Freddy we play as is brown with a black hat, more similar to the Fredbear we see in the posters for Security Breach. In the FNAF 3 minigame that apparently shows us Fredbear's Family Diner, he back to being gold with a black hat. But then in FNAF 4's minigame, he's shown to be gold with a purple hat and bow tie. His appearance has never remained consistent, which could make sense if these are games being made by a guy who's under extreme duress. If Golden Freddy isn't around, then who could have done the Bite of 83? Well, it could be that that never happened. We've never seen a gravestone for Crying Child after all. If Golden Freddy doesn't exist, then where does Cassidy's soul reside? Well, again, we still don't have any proof that the original missing children actually possessed any animatronics. All their souls may have just moved on or been immediately converted into remnants. Cassidy only really appears in Ultimate Custom Night, so either their spirit is attached to Afton's like Andrew's is in the Fazbear Fright series, or it's just really important itself over the memory of this one child that he murdered in cold blood. Long story short, I feel like we worked out the ramifications of all this, and I'd love your help working through it, because this revelation about the first 4 games being games demands a whole new way of looking at the series. The ripple effects of this revelation are huge, and casts even more doubt in the stuff that we thought that we knew about the games. I mean, with all the new books and games and revelations that we've had since the release of Security Breach, I've been meaning to do a state of the lore video for a while, just to make sure that we're all operating on the same page of what is true and what isn't true. Because at this point, it's hard for even me to keep track of what we've proved, what's only speculation, all of that. And after episodes like today,
did I really go through an entire pack of them?
so keep an eye
I
out
think
for
I
that
did,
one
but
for
I
the next
might
couple
have.
of weeks.
Oh,
It means
this is.
I'm back to researching FNAF from square one. And I thought we were done with the scary season. But
This might ruin the electricals, but we'll give it a shot anyway.
thanks to my new Game Theory merch, which, just as one final reminder, is linked down in the description of this video. So grab yourself a jacket, a hoodie, one of the other jackets, a plasma ball, one of the other hoodies, one of the other jackets. We got a lot of jackets and hoodies right now. Anyway, grab one of those items or multiple of those items before they're all gone. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go hide under my new Game Theory blanket. Just the thought of revisiting all of this lore yet again is making me have nervous sweats. I guess I'll see you all next week, unless I decide to stay under here forever. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And hey, if you want to go back to a time when we thought we knew the ins and outs of this franchise, click here to watch our previous timeline on the series. Ah yes, the days before Fazgoo. Or if you're in the mood for horror game lore that hasn't been entirely retconned yet, why not click the video on the right where I predict the story of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. And with that, as always, I'll see you next week.
With Triangle Rewards, you can earn Canadian Tire money at Petro-Canada to redeem at SportCheck, Marks,
I'll give the collar.
or Canadian Tire. Triangle Rewards, rewarding you just for filling up at Petro-Canada and Gas Plus.
A little bit shorter.
It's here to help you make. This series was months in the making, so I really appreciate your constant support. Wait, are Vanny and Vanessa the same person? I don't know. Ask Matt.
Hey! It's us! Our band is the same person! Alright, well, we've got our task then. Welcome to GT Not Live, where today we are doing our next hour analyzing a 15-minute chunk of a video. Because welcome to the world of online commentary, where a short product begets a long product begets a longer product.
We're getting good at this.
We are. Hey, you know what? If The Last Jedi, a 2-hour movie, prompted people to do like 6-hour critical analyses of its movie, then surely a 27-minute video of a YouTuber
Fuzzy, it's purple.
analyzing
It's right
lore
here.
security breach merits.
Do I want purple? Fuck it, I'm still using it. I'll use it. Let's go.
I mean, this is part 2 to his part 2 of it, which is technically our part 3 because we analysed the first one.
Just the Ouroboros of online content eating its own tail.
Yeah.
I react to his reaction of my reaction to his reaction of our theory.
Absolutely. Eventually, it will all just implode in on itself,
Yes.
and the universe will reset.
Yeah, exactly. We're basically, everyone's like, how did that black get created? You're looking at it, friends. Online content, that's how black holes get
We
created.
want the story of FNAF said maybe this is how we do it.
That's how
Eventually,
we-
it eats itself alive. Just
Spoiler alert, that's what happens when you hit video 100 of FNAF.
there you go.
That's it. If you unlock 100 videos, it's like an unlockable here. If you unlock 100 videos of FNAF, the universe opens up, swallows us all, creates a black hole, and everything resets.
Well, only 40 more to go then.
Woo, over halfway, baby! Yeah, there's more books coming out. We can always talk about that.
There's too many.
No, it's true. Speaking of, there should be one coming out fairly soon, right?
For you guys, it's already out in the UK.
Oh,
the
that's right, because we got that one early, yeah.
For some reason, the UK is getting them like a month before you
Why
guys.
are you getting them a month early?
I don't know. I literally just look on Amazon has got the US date, but then any UK bookstore you go to is like, oh, it comes out on like the 7th of November rather than the 1st of December or whatever the date is.
Maybe they're trying to maybe they're trying to encourage more FNAF fandom over there. Oh, you guys get the lore first.
Come on, I mean, I will say, the very first Tales of the Pizza Place book, the entire epilogue fell out. So maybe I'm just getting the early... They're just going, yeah, the UK can have the NAF copies, the rubbish copies.
Oh, the NAF copies!
The NAF copies.
Wait, NAF? FNAF? What? So I'm assuming NAF means the beat up or kind of junky copies?
NAF, like rubbish, yeah, or trashy, I suppose.
We got a new theory.
There we go.
Theory number 61, baby! Here we go!
We're ready.
That's a banger. No, actually, theory 61 is going to be a banger. Is it actually on?
It's actually 61.
No, I don't know where we are.
I don't know. We're close to, we're around 60. I've lost track of the exact number.
And I will say, the one that I recorded this morning, which John actually helped inspire us a little bit. And I think some of the ideas he's talking about here, we alluded to this at the end of our last reaction, but some of the ideas he's talking about here have inspired our theory.
Yeah.
And at least, have coincided, not necessarily inspired, because we've been up in our attic, my attic, we call it the Fanatic at this point, where we remove ourselves from all human beings and all of society.
Absolutely.
In order to indulge in all things FNAF.
Yeah. Away from the prying eyes of everyone else.
Yeah.
They're so interested.
Yeah,
they so want to be involved in
Ooh,
this.
no one's asking.
Yeah, you've got the editor dungeon and then the fanatic.
Yeah, the fanatic.
The fanatic.
And then all the sane people in the middle who do the normal work. That's so great. But we ascended to the fanatic. We had a couple of realizations. And then this video came out, and we're like, wait a minute, he's thinking about somewhat similar things as us.
Yeah, it's very strange how that works.
That is really strange, actually. But, yeah, I wonder if they're complementary theories.
Possibly. Depends how many, robot kids we want.
Well, who knows? And maybe,
Okay, but so cute.
midway through this before we're...
Probably won't last very long. The batteries, I think, probably getting old now, so.
Hopefully.
Hopefully we'll get back.
Either way.
Hopefully he doesn't talk about this.
Either way, cutie patootie. Put your main there. Make sure that doesn't move. That's on the bottom. I'll bet. Oh, fuck!
Let's finish off. So this is John.
I'm fine.
To catch you up, last time he basically started to talk about
These-
how it seems like Charlie.
These ones seem to be my favorite.
Has been brought back into the Pizzaplex and may just be the patient 46 that everyone
So 1, 2, 3, 4,
you know,
5, 6.
child. There's a lot of puppet or nightmare-own imagery throughout with the black black and white stripes everywhere. You have the security box with the kind of like the crying faces. The reference of in your dreams, a reference to Marion kind of being like this dream-like entity. What else was there? As I just kind of quick. Oh, and then the mention, the closet. I think this was what we ended on last time, which was I think one of his most strongest callouts, and one of the things that really got me was the fact that in order to unlock the secret security breach room the secret sister location. Yes, thank you. In security breach, you have to flash the pad can. It unlocks this weird-looking door. Which is an unusual door to be hidden like this, and he says, oh, it's the closet from the fourth closet, which is where versions of Charlie were built, hidden, and stored away for future activation. So I think that's pretty interesting. He calls out a connection between the word schematics.
One word,
Here.
schematics.
Yeah,
Now,
just, which is
versions of the blueprints are described using one word, schematic.
Yeah, so the word schematics is used here, and that.
Now, where have we heard that word before?
Do you have any final hints or anything you can say about security breach that will get people excited? Give us just one word, like a code or anything.
Schematic. So there you go. So honestly, and I didn't know this, so I'm being exposed to new evidence here, which is cool. But yeah, I think that there is definitely something here. I think that the idea of bringing Charlie back into this, I'm skeptical. I kind of hate it, but I also see a lot of where his evidence is coming from and where it's going to, and it makes sense.
Absolutely.
As much as anything in this series can make sense.
You know, at this point, what is off the table at this point?
I'm gonna put the bunny on the bow on the back.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, okay, forget it.
And I'm good. Okay. Nope. Okay. So, without any further ado, I think we hop.
I feel like I'm going in circles, and I am.
Let's
I'm
catch
not
up
getting
on where
anything
we
done.
left
I
off
don't know how to
last time.
start.
I'm curious where the 15 minutes go, though.
Absolutely.
So, like, I don't know what else he's going to dive into. So let's check that out.
I originally thought he chose that word to represent bringing Afton back, but what if he chose that word because he knew Patient 46 would be borderline impossible to interrupt? So how are we doing so far? Are you with me? Oh, you need more proof?
I do!
Yeah. This next section of the video is going to blow your mind.
Okay.
Let me tell you who
Ready.
Patient 46 is and how this Charlie bot the pizza place. I believe that the beginning of the Help Wanted / Security Story place when Fazbear Entertainment scanned Glitch Trap.
Alright, it's midnight. I'm done.
Glitch Trap taking control of Vanessa.
Alright. Calling it. Good night. Alright, okay. Alright. Well, thanks for stopping by. Sorry about jumping off there halfway through, and you guys have a good night. Thank you guys for the thumbs up.